Hello, and welcome to my second video. I know it's been a little while since the last one, but part of that is typically I won't be posting anything unless I feel like there's something I want to have to say. And I can layer this with my human design. I am a 1-3 manifesting generator, and I even have the gate 5:15, which is all about flow and all of those kind of things, rhythms and timing and finding my own unique way forward. And I think this has been my biggest challenge in the social media aspect of my business online and my biggest struggle moving forward. And a lot of that is the pressure to produce and be productive and all of those kind of things when I also do have an in-clinic face-to-face in-person business as well. So this isn't the only work that I do. And so there is that inherent pressure because I also have an open root center of feeling other people's pressure, other people's stories about consistency and all of those kind of things. But one of the things that I want to lean into today is my number one, which is all about authenticity, creativity, and all of those kind of things. So again, highlighting the fact that I will post when I feel like I've got something to say, and not just to produce here on YouTube. So layering into that, it's interesting in these times where we can fall into the pressure of judgment. So obviously when we're in a bit of flux, turmoil, chaos that the world is generating at the moment, we're all feeling it. I'm not excluded from that in any way, shape, or form. I feel the pressure, as I said, to produce on here or other social media channels. And I've stepped away from Facebook and Instagram, predominantly because I'm moving into this audio visual kind of realm. I also do have my website, um, which is more a written format, obviously, and I will still be producing on there. And again, only when flow arrives and insights and inspiration and all of those kind of things. So, because my introduction into the online space was out of fear, so um, really started hitting into this space during 2020, 2021, and we all know what happened, around that period. And I'm, an Aussie and a Victorian Aussie and a Melbourne Aussie on top of that. So we were one of the most locked down cities in the world around that time, and I couldn't work during that phase. And so there was that internal pressure, there was that societal pressure, there was that expectation to take my in-person work online. And it hasn't actually been very natural for me. It hasn't been very natural for me at all. But there is a part of me that wants to voice my, part of my journey, share it with you so that you can understand that you don't have to do it like everyone else either. You get to do it your way as well. And hence why I want to set this space up as one of authenticity, my frequency, my flow. As I said, it's not about monetizing a channel. It's not about producing for the sake of producing. It's not about an algorithm for me or anything like that. It is literally showing up because I want to show up and I've got something to say and I've got something to share. And so, yeah, so as I said, the human design underlays that, and that that 1-3 aspect is the investigator and the experimenter. So there's definitely part of me that's experimenting with this, and most likely most people aren't even going to see this. So part of me is learning how to show up because I want to show up. And again, my message will vary because I come from a strong health background, as you know, if you listen to my intro. So yeah, I'm a hands-on bodywork practitioner, so there will be a lot of work around that. Pain patterning, tuning into your own body, understanding all of that kind of stuff. So, because I feel that's really important. Like it's something that I consistently come across in my clinic is helping people understand their pain. And so that's really important to me. And getting back, and this is kind of flowing into that conversation around when we feel a whole lot of chaos and, uncertainty and all of those kind of things. So you can transfer that across to your pain story, health story, money story, any of those kind of things. And what I wanted to introduce here is the concept of curiosity and being curious when things come up for us. And I do a lot of work around triggers. I have in the past done workshops around finding the wisdom in your triggers, finding the gold in them, all of those kind of things, because that understanding and fundamental mindset work, I guess is the best way that you can put it, is to help, calm, flustered, nervous system, hyperactive nervous system, hypervigilant nervous system, all of those kind of things that keep us, in fight and flight, fawn, freeze, all those trauma responses, and helping you shift and change the stories that are around that, all of those kind of things. So the other thing about curiosity is it takes us out of judgment of self, others, and all of those kind of things. So often when I'm in a triggered state, I will make there's part of my brain that just automatic triggers into, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? What story am I telling? And to dive a little bit deeper, that's my number one. That's my one line. And I do that easily now. I do that very easily. It's a process that I've created. It's a method that I've got. And hence it takes me out of that flustered fight and flight state into, as I said, that period of curiosity, which then, as I said, opens doors to different perspectives. It opens and softens my response. And I have been saying a lot, a lot more frequently particularly probably the last, I'm going to say 18 months, 12 to 18 months. Isn't that interesting? How curious is that? That's, I'll be interested to see what happens. All of those kind of things are commonly coming out of through my voice. And I think part of that is because we are in a state of flux. There is an element of people even wanting us to sit in that space, because when we sit in that space, we don't actually make good decisions. We rush into things. And this is all part of the sales, aspect as well. And I want to bring that in too, because there's a part of us that when we're in that fight, flight, fawn, freeze mode, we don't actually trust ourselves. We actually check out, really. And I know for me, like gaining understanding around that has really helped me to wind back. And as I said, from a point of curiosity and all of that, as I said, across a spectrum of things. So it can be health related, it can be, as I said, monetarily related, it can be business related. Because as I said, I'm relatively green to this new online space for me. And hence, as I said, there's part of me that doesn't feel certain in it. So when I don't feel certain, I'll buy things that actually aren't very helpful, but because they're coming from a place of fear. And that, as I said, that internal pressure that I have with that open read center. And I have an open head center to say, and they call that a sandwich, a pressure sandwich. And the element of that is that I do actually feel pressured to want to know it all, and then the pressure to take action. And the two often aren't a great mix under pressure. So hence I'll buy courses that, at the time I think are going to solve a solution, but then I get into them and I go, no, this wasn't the solution I was looking for. And so, yeah, there's aspects of that is asking me to, and I have started to actually step back and start asking myself in that moment, what is it that I'm actually buying? Am I buying a fear-based solution, or am I buying it's a lack of trust often behind those decisions that drive that impulsive purchase. And even though my 1-3, and I have a sacral authority, so I'm layering a lot of human design into this. So if you've never heard about human design, do let me know in the comments and I can come back and give you some information on that. I have a sacral authority, which is meant to have an instant response, but it's a body response. And I'm also starting to learn that what I think is my body's response is not actually my body response because it's layered with the mind. And as I say, a mind-based decision isn't great for a sacral authority. I don't think it's great for anyone, but foundationally, for us who are sacral authorities who are meant to make body-based decisions, there's yeah, I'm finding it's layered now. I'm finding it's layered with a whole stack of my trauma responses, my habits, my lack of trust in self, and all of those kind of things when it comes to things like online business. And so my curiosity around those things has grown so that now I am more aware of why I'm purchasing things. And some of that has come about from my freelance, my experimenting, being in containers and going, hell no, this isn't what I wanted. Or that container has shifted so exponentially that I rushed into this. And again, did I do it out of fear or did I do it out of through value adding to my learning capacity and all of those kind of things? So it has been an interesting process to go through. And 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 then again, as I said, our world is, and Australia is not any different to any other country at the moment either. We've got sides, we've got division, we've got polarity, we've got people who are right or left or central or whatever, all those kind of things trying to get us to fight each other. And hence why, and to make us feel unsafe. Primarily under all of that is to make us feel unsafe. We might have we'll say we might have a government that's trying to look like it's helping us, but in truth, there is an element of trying to keep us all on tenterhooks and wondering what's coming next and how we're going to manage and cost of living and all of these kind of financial things, because financial safety is pivotal to general safety, right? The feeling like we can pay for things that we need and shelter, so housing, food, clothes, all of those kind of things, which are core essentials. If we don't feel safe enough to buy those, then we live in a state of fear, ongoing fear, and that drives a body response, that drives a mental response because our frontal lobe shuts down, we make poor decisions, all of those kind of things when we don't feel safe. So a core crux of all of this is how do we generate safety, and safety in decision making, safety in, as I said, a space of chaos, which almost feels impossible. And so when we remain curious with not making judgments, not creating pressure, not living out of fear, and some might say, oh, that's easy if you've got money, and that's easy if you've got this or that. But the truth is, the longer you stay in a state of fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, the internal body has its own response to that. Poor sleep, poor food choices, all of those kind of things. So, as I said, if we bring it all back to curiosity, where am I making this decision from? Is there any way that I can bring this back to a place of non-hypervigilance, non-trauma based? And as I said, there's processes that most of you will need to learn to do that, particularly if this is your first iteration of hearing about it. Most of the people, I'm assuming, coming to this page, channel, whatever you want to call it, have some experience with trauma responses, that language around trauma, and so probably have a somatic awareness of how you're wanting to shift and change and create those kind of things. So as I said, the core of this is being curious, and its benefits in uncertain times. So curiosity, remaining interested in how it's all going to unfold without creating pressure or fear, is going to be one of your greatest strong suits through this next evolution. If you're in the human design world, 2027, February 2027 is meant to be a big pivotal change, but the reality is most of those changes are felt long before then. And I'm highly sensitive, so I'm feeling it well before then. But curiosity is my friend through all of this. and non-judgment as much as possible. I'm not saying that I can't. Sometimes I'll go into judgment and then I'll take myself out of it when that curious mindset comes in. It's just like, what's the aim behind this? Why are they wanting us to sit in fear? Why do they want us to feel chaotic? Why do they not want us to feel calm and settled? Why do they not want us to feel safe? And to fight each other and to make judgments on each other and all of that. Where, see, you can see where my mind goes. Like, it's not just they're bad, they're wrong, they're right, they're good, all of those kind of things. And the more open we can be to different perspectives and viewpoints and all of those kind of things, that doesn't mean that you've got to change your mind. But if you can be open to hearing some of those, it might actually soothe and calm hyper heightened in aware nervous system into more of a calm and relaxed space. That doesn't mean we're not going to go through those waves. We're always going to go through those waves. It's like with pain. Everyone's going to have flare-ups to some degree of a chronic pain pattern. It's just knowing that you can get through that wave and and the recognition is that wave's going to come. When it's going to come, who knows? How big is that wave going to be? How long is that wave going to last? All of that kind of stuff, unknown in the moment. But when you bring yourself back to your body, awareness, all of those good things, and sit in that space of curiosity, which I'm highly encouraging you to foster that practice when anything comes up that makes you want to hold your breath, fired up, angry, all of those kind of things, is to take a deep breath, lower the shoulders, relax the jaw, all of those kind of things, so that you can get into that curious mindset. You can get out of the polarity, the fighting, the judgment, the pressure, the fear, all of those kind of things, and bring yourself back to a space of calm, and again, that layering of calm might take minutes, might take hours, might take days. And the more frequently you do it, the quicker it typically happens. And as I said, my curiosity continues to function around the why. Why do they want this? Why? And some of those I'm never going to have answers for. That's the fundamental truth. But when we're in a hyper state and a hyper aware state, hyper vigilant state, we are far more easily controlled compared to when we sit back, take a step back and goes, what's the rush? What's the pressure? What's the fear driving this? And as I said, it can help you with better decision making and all those kind of things. So I just wanted to plant that seed here as, not just for this, short video, but the reality when, as I said, you get triggered by a topic I might mention or somebody else might video or do any of those kind of things, is to sit into that space of why are they doing, why might they be doing that? And as I said, foundationally, I'm here as a channel to help you find ways forward in your own life to, live a life you love and one that you actively choose to live, not one that you feel pressured into living, all of those kind of things. So I'm going to leave it there. It might have sounded all a bit roundaboutish from that side of things. There was a bit of human design in there, a bit of nervous system in there, a bit of somatic work, all of that kind of stuff, because my core philosophy probably is that it's layered. Like everything else, it's layered. Nothing is ever one solution is done and dusted. There is layering to all of that. And there's a layering to our response. There's a layering to our story. There's a layering because typically when you dive into those fight and flight responses and, trauma responses and all of those kind of things, there is an element of probably multiple story layers in there. And in my work, I like to take people back as far as possible. But most likely we go through a story that was only a couple of years old and then into another story that's older than that, then into another story. And eventually we get back to a childhood story, which typically tends to be the core of it. But all the others are layers of it as well. They influence your choices and decision making and all of that kind of stuff. So from encouraging you for healthy choices, healthy decision making, is coming back to a place of curiosity and how that actually helps you come out of those fight and flight fawn, freeze responses so that you can make more conscious decisions, more aware decisions, done less without pressure and less without fear as your driver. So thanks for listening, and I look forward to doing the next video.